Well, a lot of people have heard of West Veloso, but they think that it was some big-time movie that was made maybe with the help of Hollywood, you know. But this, you have to recognize that this really isn't that at all. If you take it for what it is, it's fabulous, I think.
When Pete Green set out to make West of Veloso in 1941, he probably had no idea the lore surrounding it would grow as much as it has. Now, 64 years later, the legend of his Ada-based Western has outstripped knowledge of the film itself. West of Veloso started out as an idea for a local civic club to raise money for the community's underprivileged children. It succeeded in that goal more than half a century ago, and as a film, it continues to pique the interest of any who come into contact with it.
Well, the Kiwanis Club was looking for an idea to make some money for the club, and we thought it might be a good way to do it, and then pull the club together and all the people working in it, and it just turned out to be a very successful deal.
It's a very simple story where, of course, you have a hero and a heroine and a bad guy and his gang. And it's all about the bad guy and his gang kidnapping the heroine and stealing, I guess stealing cattle, and then being caught and dealt with by the good guys.
Well, every member of the Ada Kiwanis Club at that time was in it, in the street scenes or someplace walking here or there, and then all of the ladies of the Kiwanis Club were also in it, and well, we just had a lot of people.
It's just difficult to name them all because virtually every one of them were well-known people in Ada.
Cora Bryan.
Well, we all met every week, and it was added, you know, a little bit each time.
We worked 5 Sunday afternoons, and we would tell the actors and actresses that be sure to remember what you had on, because from one to the other we didn't want coats on and then not have a coat on in the next scene.
It was fun to do because all of us got so well acquainted and everything, and that was real good.
Pete shot West of Veloso on 16mm film with a borrowed camera. The Ada Kiwanis Club paid for the film and covered the costs of having it developed. And interestingly enough, it wasn't Pete's first film.
He made one in Pauls Valley before he moved here. He and the villain in the movie. The villain in the movie was Rex Morrison, who was superintendent of schools here. He and Pete had been friends in Pauls Valley, and they made a film over there, which it was in black and white, and they named it Rattlesnake Shins.
Although West of Veloso is a silent film and only about 45 minutes in length, it's full of hilarious moments, some intentional and some not.
The actors had to be up in the projection booth speaking their lines during the movie. They're all amateurs. The story is intended to be slapstick to some extent.
Have a drink. No thanks, I don't drink. I belong to the Lions Club.
We were having such a good time, and we didn't know what we were doing because Pete was just telling us to go out there and walk through, you know, or something to that effect.
We couldn't make a lot of tests and then show the movie, make the movie, because we didn't have money to spend on film. We'd run the scene one time and then we'd take it. So on these fall scenes off the horses, why, we felt like that we'd just better make that one shot because we may not have a man to play the part the second time. So when Mac Brawley comes off the horse after being shot by the hero, we didn't know there were rocks all over the ground where he fell. And he really got bruised up in these rocks. That was funny, of course, to people besides Mac.
It was funny, the marriage of Mr. Kellogg and one of the guys. It was funny, and they dressed up like a woman.
At the wedding scene, they needed a fine singer to sing the wedding song at the wedding scene, and I took on that job. I will say this, that no one will know me when I sing this song. That's 39 years ago. For I would love to call you Rose, dear, but roses fade away. Roses fade when winter time is near. I'd love to call you
Most of the film was outdoors. There were, however, some indoor scenes. There was the shack where Sal Hepatica had been taken after she was kidnapped, and there was the bar. They had no lighting, and so they did these outdoors on a tennis court, and so they were outdoors, and they built backdrops for, you know, for it. So in that part of the film, you know, it's quite bright compared to some of the other scenes, but it was a way to get the job done.
In the saloon scene, of course, we had borrowed from the office of the sheriff whiskey to go as props on the back bar of the saloon. And I promised the sheriff that I'd be sure to have all this stuff back. It was evidence stuff, you know, and somehow or other, after the thing was all over, I couldn't find any of it. That's bad.
Filming took a little more than a month, but there was still a lot of work left to be done before West of Veloso would be ready for its debut.
I remember quite a bit of it because there was a lot of activity. For example, in the credits at the beginning of the movie, I remember him with the poster painting in a wallpaper sample book, so that when it starts, the town drunk turns the pages and it tells about you know, the title of the movie and who is in it, and gives the credits and so forth. I also remember hours and hours and hours of his sitting in the kitchen, cutting the film after it had been developed and splicing it back together, doing the editing on it.
After Pete finished editing West of Veloso, the community was treated to a big premiere at the McSwain Theater on Main Street.
They did have a big celebration to kick it off. They had a parade downtown. They had a Hollywood-type premiere with, as I understand it, searchlights, and the stars came in limousines, and I mean, they did it up right, I'm sure of that.
Did you go see the premiere of it down at the McSwain?
I sure did.
What was that like?
Well, everybody seemed to enjoy it because they knew people in it, you know. Dr. Sugg and, a bunch of people was there, and I can't even remember them all, but Bill Thompson's father, Charles, was in it, and his mother. And it was just a lot of people that people in town knew, so it made, and we made quite a bit of money the first year on that.
Now look, you get on that pony and get out of here, I'll tear your head off. You and your whole gang can't whip me, oh yeah?
Perhaps the most beloved scene in West of Veloso involved audience participation. Those attending the screenings who were not in the know were treated to a splendid theatrical surprise.
But when we showed the movie at the theater and this guy asked for people to come up and help him fight, ladies and gentlemen, when I started this fight, I thought I could whip these birds, but I can't whip them. Is anybody sitting out there in the audience that'd come up here and help me whip them? And they actually got out of their seats in the theater and came down the aisle and went behind the screen and walked in. Now that was when they got the big hand. Bill Glattman, Martin Clark, and George Altag, they're gonna help him. Brother, they make fast work of it.
Even though I'd watched him film this and edit it and all this, I didn't know what to expect until I saw the movie. So I was sitting in the McSwain with the rest of the people, and the hero, Gymnasium, was the hero. And there were Kiwanis members sitting in the audience who shouted, I can help, I can help. And then they walked up the side aisles, up the stairs, and disappeared, and then they showed up on screen. And I actually thought that was pretty cool.
Another great accomplishment attributable to Pete Green is that West Veloso captured Ada as it was in 1941, in many ways revealing a much more innocent and simple way of life. The film shows Wintersmith Park in other area settings in their less developed, less populated forms, giving the contemporary eye a real window into Ada's past.
Well, I think it's real historical, as far as Ada's concerned.
This was a special time. This was just months before Pearl Harbor. And I have no idea how many, but many of the people in the film went off to war. The film is actually a historical thing. It's also a family thing. Just think of all the children and grandchildren of the people who are in it, and they have a chance to see their ancestors. These are the people who have just come out of the Depression. They're just about to go in harm's way, and yet they're thinking about the underprivileged children of the area. And I think it's America at its best.
In the end, West of Veloso is an important historical document, but it's also a pleasure to watch. It's a living testament to one man's resourcefulness and creativity, as well as his just plain old likability.
Among other things, he was the greatest father that anyone could have.
Pete was the ham from throughout, and they just had a ball, and everybody played tricks on one another.
I've heard people here say that he should have been in the movies as a comedian. He had fabulous timing, a great imagination, and unbounded energy.
Did anyone win an Academy Award?
We had, I think it was 7 nominations.
You had 7 nominations.
And,
oh, that's wonderful.
we discussed, and we couldn't come up with a real winner because there's just too many good actors, you know.